Okay, I got it. I got it. And it's in where? Oh, we got it. Okay. Like thank you or something.
Okay. So this is my first time leading this meeting, as you all know, and I confess that I am a bit of a night owl. I teach music and so I didn't go to. Oh,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I
have
need
to ask that you stay on the mic.
Thank
just
you.
for the people online.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Janelle.
We're
Thank
gonna work
you.
out a lot of kinks during this meeting.
We are going to ask a lot of questions, and we're going to work out a lot of things. And now I'm off camera too,
Okay,
but they probably don't care about that.
okay,
so
let
that's
me
fine.
let me make sure, let's test the mic again.
Okay, and that's one of my first announcements is that I may get a phone call during this meeting and I'm gonna take it because it'll be from my husband who's on Zoom. And so if there's any problem at all on Zoom, he's gonna call me. So forgive me for being rude and taking a phone call in the middle of leading a meeting. The other announcement I want to make is that uh, we're going to leave something out, something pretty big out today with the consent of the committee chairs, or as many as I could get a hold of yesterday. Usually we do committee chair reports, but they take a little bit of time. It is so important to celebrate the work of the committees, the work of the volunteers, the work of the leaders in this organization, that I want you to know that we're not giving it short shrift. We're going to reschedule it for December. And I think we'll actually be a little bit more relaxed in December. But also, we want to make this meeting a little bit shorter today because I know a whole lot of you want to go to a rally later. So I'm hoping that we will be finished by 11:30. And if we are brief, maybe even 11, probably not, but we'll try. So everything's okay?
Yes.
So
the
far?
Sound is good in Zoom world.
All right, excellent, excellent. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is the call to order and the adoption of this order of business, subject to any proposed changes. Uh-oh. There we go. Nope, I need to go ahead. Up. Okay, so I have now accidentally jumped back in my, okay,
If that's
thank
where you're
you.
more
That
comfortable
is
standing.
fine. There we go. So here's the slightly amended agenda. I've moved a few things around and I took out the committee reports. Anitra is our expert on all things parliamentary. So I'm going to ask Anitra if I can find her. There you are. Thank you, Anitra. So what is the official thing that we have to do now to call this? We have a quorum. The quorum is established. Okay, so we don't need to do anything official with this. Okay, so we are then ready to approve the minutes from the last annual meeting. They were read by a committee of 2, I believe, in June, and they were approved by that small committee and filed. And so now they were made public, of course. So now we need to approve them as a member, as an entire membership, right? Okay, so is there a motion on the floor? Cindy?
I so move that we accept the minutes from May 2021.
Okay, Cindy Cart moves that we accept the minutes from 2021. Becky Yaki seconds the motion. Everyone in favor, raise your hand, please.
Okay, let's give a moment for Zoom room.
We've got a little chit chatting going on outside. That is not Zoom. There's not an argument on Zoom.
Okay. We have 3 yeses, and then
All right.
we'll just ask if any are opposed.
Are any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And next we have the treasurer's report. Rita.
Okay, so I'm here to say that we had a really good year of fundraising, and especially since it's a year that we didn't have many expenses because we didn't have a major election. So this is all a good thing because next year our budget, as you have seen, for next year is going to go up because there are some major elections and there are more things that we have to do, both for getting people registered, getting out the vote, and for publicizing the vote. And there may be changes in how people will have to vote. So we need to be able to publicize that as well. So I can tell you that at the moment we have a healthy balance on our balance sheet. So if anybody wants particulars about any of that, I'm more than happy to meet with you afterwards and show you either the profit and loss statement or the balance sheet so that you can see where we stand at the moment. We are not going to expense all of our expenses for this year because we had clearly funneled some in for rent and in-person meetings, which didn't happen. So next year, we hopefully will be able to bump that up and start seriously meeting in person. So as you can see from the budget that's projected for next year, there's more in rent and there's some in hospitality, et cetera. So from that perspective, there is a fairly large, about $7,000 bump in the budget from this year to next year. So the budget went out to everybody beforehand, hopefully. Yeah, and there are copies, I think, floating around if anybody wants to see one. So I'm first going to ask if anybody has any questions on the budget as presented for next year. And or well, if you have questions on the present year, come see me afterwards. I'm going to be sticking around, or you can send me an email, either way. But if you have any questions on the budget as presented for next year. Yes, Anitra.
You believe it's doable?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Anitra. Yes. I think it's a very realistic budget. Cheryl. Great. Second? Great. Dave, okay. All those in favor? Yay. Any, okay, resume people?
So please feel free. Speak to the mic. Oh, gosh. Everyone on Zoom, if you turn on your camera and raise your hand or do the raised hand function, I will count your votes.
Yes. Hi. Huh. 1,500 of it is yours. One for each semester. Yes, yes. And then one for vote for 011, if Pat is here. So, yeah. Okay, are we good? Not yet. Okay, we did everybody in favor. Anybody opposed? Okay. Yes. It's in there. In administration. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so
Okay, I think the motion passes.
motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Back to you.
All right, we're ahead of schedule already. You guys rock. We did that. Okay. There is a proposal approved by the board to amend the bylaws. So this went out as well. We have the two major changes on the screen. We do have some other changes that were in the call. Those are mostly fixing some typos and some punctuation errors, things like that. But these are the two changes that we made that are of substance. So the first one is to change. So we of course speak as one, as the league, and in our bylaws, it has said that only the president can speak for the league or an individual who has been appointed by the entire board. Our board thinks that in this day and age with social media and news breaking so quickly that we need to be a little bit more flexible than that. And so we have suggested that rather than the entire board appointing someone to speak on behalf of the league, that the executive committee would appoint a member to speak on behalf of the league. And the executive committee is made up of the 5 officers of the league. So the president, the 2 vice presidents, the treasurer, and the secretary. So that's what that item is. And then we also struck the when 2 or more members reside at the same address in a common household, the payment determined will be 1 full membership and 1/2 of that. We think that that is actually a committee level decision and not something that should be written into the bylaws, that it is too specific to be in the bylaws. We don't disagree with that policy. We just think that it's not something that needs to be codified in the bylaws. So are there any questions? Is there any discussion about the proposed amendments to the bylaws? Donna?
I would just say on that issue of membership, it is in the standing guidelines for the membership. Total membership.
Mhm.
Correct. It can be. Plus, it's also directed, I think.
Laura? We might have one more question. Another question? Oh. I do. Thank you for reminding me. We will get the hang of this. I am used to being in my very staged room with looking up so no one can see all my extra chins and my fancy mic. And so Donna pointed out that that any change in the fee structure would have to be approved by the entire membership, that's part of our standing rules. And so this adheres to those rules and also to some rules from national. Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Laura. Laura Marcus Mountjoy made a motion to approve the amended bylaws. Do we have a second? Rita seconds it. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Ooh, they're getting better on Zoom too. They're faster. They're learning it. They're learning it. Yeah, you guys are rocking. Thank you. Okay, anyone opposed? Ooh, Janelle's getting fast at putting the hands down on Zoom too. Oh, awesome. All right, that motion passes. Thank you. That's awesome. Oop, I forgot to. Okay. Next, we have a proposed study. We have a study that's been proposed by Greg Woodhams on election administration. So I'm going to let Greg talk about that for a few minutes. And if you have any questions, you can ask him. So if you want to come on up and hold our very cheap podcast mic.
All right, good morning. So I'll be respectful of time. Let's make this a conversation. Most of this time will be for question and answer. So my introductory remarks have to deal with 3 things. The genesis of this study, the benefits of the study, and then lastly, the scope of the study. So the genesis, how did we get here? And this was a product of the Legislative Action Committee. And we saw early in the spring a large body of legislation that was moving through the Missouri legislature. And that body had 3 elements to it. Number 1, it didn't target who votes. It targeted how elections are held. The second thing is that it was copycat legislation that verbatim we saw in Florida, in Georgia, in Texas, and in Kansas. And each of these pieces of legislation seemed arcane and only mildly concerning when we took a look at it individually. But when you took at the totality of it and the national scope of it, then it became much more concerning. And parenthetically, if anybody is interested, there's a great piece that the Brennan Center puts out on this whole theme. And so send me a message, I'll send it to you. Okay, so in the Legislative Action Committee process, there's always this question, does the League of Women Voters have a position on this? And many times, because a lot of this stuff is new, we would say no, but we wish we did, and we need a study. Okay, so that's the genesis. So what are the benefits of the study? Well, I've alluded to that. If to the extent that we have a position that comes from a study, then our legislative action is more powerful. And the second one, and parenthetically, if anybody wants to hear it, there's an anecdote here, but with knowledge. If members of the league have knowledge, they have credibility. And if they have credibility, they have the ability to inform and modify legislation, even among legislators that are not our natural allies. So those are two benefits. So let's move to the big part, the scope of the study. This is a long list, okay? But this year, we identified and we're following 44 bills that were moving through the Missouri legislature exclusive of voter ID, okay? And there were we identified 10 areas of how elections are administered based on proposals. House Bill 1878, which was passed and is on its way to the governor, that touches 7 of these 10. Now, let me just run through these real fast. I'll turn around. They feature one, nonpartisan and professional management of voting processes, okay? How they're funded, that has come up many times. Observer Corps knows about that. Where, what time, and what dates we vote, how they're counted, how it's certified, the management of voter registration rolls. This becomes very important with 1878 because the Secretary of State now has a whole lot of discretion, okay? The voter registration process. There's a provision in there that I have called the Becky Yaki provision. Okay, you can laugh, but it's really sad. The management of election and voter challenges, that's the scariest stuff. The independence of local election authorities, that's a very big deal. And lastly, election integrity. So they all have one thing in common, and this can really help us focus. They all touch on local election boards. So if you think about it, where does the study start and where does it end? If it doesn't touch an election board, a local election board, that's not in the scope, okay? If it does, it's within the scope. So 2 closing comments. What are the challenges? Well, let me just put on my realist hat. The biggest challenge here is the scope of the study, the vast scope of the study, okay? But having said that, the reality is the Heritage Foundation is there. These are the other think tanks that are crafting this legislation, they're there. Okay, so that's our reality. So what are our advantages? The League of Women Voters has a great brand. We also have productive relationships with election boards. That's an ace in the hole. And then the last thing is we've got members, I'm gonna read this. We have members who are interested in reading legislation and statutes. Okay, it's true, but it's a great thing to have. But let's take that one thing. But you are also very good at thinking through legislation to how that makes a difference to a voter, okay? Who will be better informed and who will be able to vote and will see their vote count. So that's my intro. Happy to take any questions. Yes, ma'am. Okay. You're Anitra Steele, right?
will you be looking at all the different election boards in our multi-county area?
Yes. Okay, the question for our Zoomers, will we be looking at all the election boards in the area? And the answer is definitely yes. One thing that's interesting here is each local election authority runs their election differently. And our challenge here is everybody knows the phrase, think globally, act locally. Well, this is where this is definitely in League of Women Voters, Kansas City, all those other counties wheelhouse, okay? We have to understand, and fortunately, like I alluded in my reference to Donna Hoke, we have good relationships with the Kansas City Election Board, Jackson County Election Board. Donna, it's Cass County where you're bringing the brownies to? No, it's just, so yes, I hope that answers your question. Yes, Donna.
I would just add means that people on the study committee that represent every area of the
Absolutely. So Donna's fine point was we need people in every part of our coverage area where there is an local election board jurisdiction. Now, having said that, we also will be informed by, because the state of Missouri is, especially with HB 1878 having an impact here. So there are resources we have in the state that will be very important for us here too. Yes. Okay, very good questions here. When do we intend to start the study, and when do we intend to finish the study? I intend to get in motion as soon as I can. I didn't want to presume anything before a vote. Okay, so that's answer number one. Finishing it, okay. I know that people had a question as to whether this was a 1-year cycle study or a 2-year cycle study. Okay, that's something that this group will need to undertake. And again, this is all going to be participatory. I'm walking into this saying, I want to be informed and advised by everybody that comes to this. Having said that, I have seen some of the best studies that I have seen have been ones where a topic was fairly large, okay? And what they did is they did things sequentially. They said, okay, these are the most urgent things. This is something we can get done this year. And they presented it after year 1. And then that particular study group said, okay, year 2 of our study, we're going to do this other thing. And what happened was in year 2, the group had the benefit of the feedback from the larger chapter on what happened. So I'm not saying that that is how this will be run, but I'm certainly open to that. And again, this will all be informed by how the skill sets and the advice that anybody that comes to this group has. Yes. Okay, so it's not so much that, well, let me put it this way. There should be positions that come out. That is the objective of this, that we come out with positions. And the reason, I alluded to this earlier, that when we were working on this in the Legislative Action Committee, and we would say, oh, there's not a position. Well, guess what? We're not alone. You go out and you look at all the studies that are out there in all through the United States, and they aren't there. And when I've talked to people in other leagues about positions on all of this stuff and all of this that relates to election administration, I get this frequent comment, and it goes like this: so much has changed since 2016. You know, sad but true. pre-2016, you look at all both on conservative, progressive, the legislation somehow or another acknowledged that that voting was good and that participation was good. That has changed. And actually and then the other thing was the respect for election authorities and the respect for nonpartisan management of elections. That has all changed. So going back to Evelyn's question, do we expect to have new positions? We expect to have positions, and we expect to have positions that wouldn't have even been contemplated before 2016.
Great, there's a question from Zoom. Don Tully asks about the Brennan study, and could you, oh, I've got my unmuted, thank you though. Could you either post to the website, which I do not believe we can do, or send out to membership?
It's gone out in previous e-voter.
Yes, so the study has gone out in the previous e-voter.
Not last week, but I believe within the past 3 issues. It's in one of the past 3 issues.
Okay, what I can do is I can identify which issue it came out in.
Yeah,
and-
because you can go on their website.
Okay,
Run it on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll probably answer by the end of the meeting.
sure,
So
sure.
Which issue it is.
No, but again, if anything, even though it's a fascinating report, and it's one of these deals where, you know, it's something like it's comparable to being in your house and saying, you know, I suspect there's a problem in my house, and they're kind of this, that, the other thing, and then you call somebody in and they say, yes, sir, you've got X, Y, and Z in your house, and you better do something about it. Well, that's exactly what the Brennan Center thing was. Yes, ma'am.
The website does have all the previous issues as a voter on it. So you can go to the newsletter, go to the website, the homepage, and there's a letter, I think it's one of the drop downs, and you can find everybody wants it. You should be able to see it and find the link.
Okay, for everybody on Zoom, and thank you, Mary. She's saying if you go to the website, you can find previous meetings and click previous e-voters. I wasn't listening. Previous e-voters, and click down, and you should be able to find it.
Yeah, and it's in the last 3.
And it's in the last 3. Other questions? Well, again, if you're interested, I would just be thrilled to have anybody join this committee who loves reading legislation and statutes and making sure that people can vote. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. That was terrific. All right, so we need to vote. Oops. No, I skipped over that's the next slide. So we need to vote on approving this proposed study. Yes, Sandy. Sandy Eads moves that we undertake this study as presented, and Stacy Webb seconds it. So everyone in favor? Yeah, that's that's the highest the hands have been up so far today. Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Thank you to everybody too. Yeah, I'm gonna just say that passes because that was about it. Yeah, thank you. I love that we have so many people who really geek out and get into this stuff. I am having to learn some of it now, and it's difficult. So, well, and I want to, we're taking a break from our official business for just a moment for me to talk about 2 things that are not standard issue for this membership meeting. And one of them is that we have, after the meeting is over, we have put signs up on the wall for those of you who are here in person for the committees. So our committee chairs who are here in attendance will be standing under their signs. And so if you are interested in getting involved in one of the committees, or you just want to find out some more about it, or you want to just kind of look over and see who's on it, do they look cool? Do I want to work with them? Do I want to? please do that. We're going to be doing that after the meeting. And Greg has just taken the role of voter education chair. So he will be under the voter education sign and you can go and talk to him then. And I have some mistakes some mistakes papers that you can use the back of if you want to sign people up. So that I wanted to talk about. So that's where you can talk to Greg. Also, I forgot to say that my name is Ann Calvert. When we first started, I kind of assume because all this email comes out from me that you guys know, but we haven't been in person in what, a year, 2 years, 700 years, I can't remember. And so anyway, I'm Ann, I'm your president. Then the other thing I wanted to talk about is just briefly is the forms page. So I just want to let you guys know we have a page on the website that is the forms page. I was going to walk you through it, but I'm afraid I'll goof up my slideshow if I do. So I won't actually walk you through it. But if you are logged on to your member login, which I encourage you all to do, because there's some stuff on the website that you can't get to otherwise. The very farthest menu to the right is a menu for forms. And on that page, there are a couple of very important forms. One is an information submission button. So if you're working with a committee and you want to send something in to the e-voter, or you want the board to know about something, or you want something to go out via social media, that's where you would put that information. That's where you would submit that. The reason it's so important to use a form and not to just email someone is that form dumps into a spreadsheet where we can then very easily keep track of what you submitted. That way we don't lose any information. I know that the information that you guys send in is important to you. It's important to us. We want to capture that. And this is the best way. Things get lost in email. It's hard to categorize. Nobody ever categorizes their email. I tried. I'm that organized. And I failed. And I'm someone who alphabetizes things in the refrigerator. But yeah, and I gave up. So the other very important form is the suggestion box. That's probably the one that sort of medium active members to not as active members are going to use the most. So that suggestion box has 2 questions. What's your name? And what's your suggestion? And I have gotten some fantastic suggestions from that suggestion box. We put some of them into action, and it's something I look at regularly. I get a notice when somebody puts something in the suggestion box. It's there, it's on a spreadsheet, it's collected. We don't lose it. In fact, half of the suggestions in the suggestion box are from me because somebody emailed me a suggestion and I said, well, I'm absolutely going to lose this. And so I stick it in the suggestion box so that it doesn't get lost. But you don't want to trust me by emailing it to me. You want to go straight to the suggestion box. So that's our little fun pause from our official business to talk about the things that we have on the website and our committees. Oh,
Yeah, I'd like a suggestion.
you may.
For the Zoom world, would you mind standing behind the podium, or I can move the podium just because
We can just-
looking at the back of your head mostly.
We can
that
absolutely,
okay?
you set it up however,
Thank you
I,
so much.
though,
That's gonna be perfect.
come on. It's good back of the head. Thank you. Okay, I did also want to mention, speaking of committees, that we have 2 committees we don't have chair people for. One of them is they're both really important. One of them is Get Out the Vote. That effort needs to get rolling pretty darn soon. So if you are interested in getting more active and working in conjunction with voter services, Becky Yucky and voter education, Greg Woodhams and me, and Janelle, please let us know you would be interested in working with the Get Out the Vote effort. We also don't have anyone heading up the monthly meetings. So all the speakers that come in and talk to us every month, with the exception of this month in January, but all those speakers are coordinated by the chair of our monthly meetings committee. And Pauline Testerman's done a fantastic job, and she's ready to pass that on to someone else. She is going to remain on the committee so she can help anyone who wants to come up to speed, or who wants to take that leadership. She'll help them come up to speed. I will say with both of these committee chair positions, most of our work is now done electronically, so we do want leaders who have some ability to move around in collaborative documents, Google Workspace and email, and or can pick it up pretty quickly. So let me know if anybody's interested in either of those positions. We are very anxious to get those filled. We've got important work to do. We've got really important work to do. Okay, so that's the official end of our break. And it's going to go, or it's not. Okay, next we have,
Just need to advance.
yeah, I did. I think I'm afraid it's gonna go another, okay, that's good, that's good. That is, thank you. Okay. So the next area we want to discuss is the vote to approve proposed changes to our positions. So a member has proposed that we drop one section of one position. So this is normally we only adopt a new position with a study and with careful research, but we are actually allowed to drop a position by vote. I dug through every layer of bylaws last night, but still, I dug through every layer of bylaws. So we are allowed to just drop a position. Donna, would you like to come up and talk about why you suggested this change? Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to share with you that when our redistricting observer corps group watched a very open Kansas City redistricting committee, it came up over and over again about, being all minorities being represented, or how did we draw districts that allowed such. And I thought they were actually going to develop a task force to look at this issue, and League would not be able to participate because they are, the position is what's currently offered and all. And we, since this was adopted in 1970, we have seen a lot of change in Kansas City. And not that the population has grown that much more, but the diversity of the city has really changed. And for example, the Hispanic community is not represented on the council, but that is a good portion, that we have people in that minority. So rather than doing a brand new study, we could just drop this position that 6 and 6 represents well our diversity and our city. And so that's why I am suggesting, or suggested at program planning, that we just drop that. Now, I will give you a history. Usually we reaffirm our positions year after year, and the state, and this is, I would say I've been a member 48 years, so I have a little bit of history with the league, but the state dropped the court position. It's known as the Missouri Plan. And we did that study and it became IDEA. And we thought it was in the bag, no one was bothering that, and we dropped it. And then lo and behold, as changes take place, there began an attack on the courts, and the league had to do another quick down and dirty study and re-adopt that position. So that happened in the last, I would say 10 years. I don't know, it's been a little while since we did that. So we've had the habit of just re-adopting whole of positions because we want to be able to act. But this one is holding us back in our new principle that the league has adopted to look through everything with DEI eyes, diversity, equity, inclusion. I think we can follow that as another reason we should drop this. Evelyn? Okay. Well, so what I will say, what we are dropping is number one, the 6 districts and the 6 at-large council members create a representative government that can be responsive to the will of the majority. And what I am saying, and what we learned from the watching all the redistricting, is that it is truly not representative. Cheryl?
Is the argument?
You're saying you still have district and you still have a large council member, we're just not saying how many of each. Yes. I think that's an excellent idea.
Is the argument though that the at-large council members are not representative of the districts they're serving? Because it seems like in our city, 4th district is the largest voting block that gets out the vote. And so 4th district has a bigger weigh-in on at-large candidates.
Well, I will tell you that as I talk to a politically active individual, he told me that at-large districts are very hard unless you're backed by a lot of money, because you cannot get out and shake hands to everyone in your at-large district like you can in your in-district such. So, you know, we haven't studied. I mean, I don't know what, I don't know. Ann?
Well, I'm also. I also think this does support the council manager form of government. So what we would lose is the designation that it's 6 district and 6 at large, because the position is to support council manager form. So I think that leaves it open that it could be that it would be district or at large, that we would be flexible about what's going on at the time. So I think, so I hear what you're saying, but I think the rest of the position does support that form of government.
I think there's a lesson in this, and that is, don't add on extraneous junk at the end of your sentences. That's just chit chatting. Response to the bill, yeah, that's not what we're trying to say. And that's part of it, what I think is confusing. Ought to be responsive to the people, but the majority.
But we're now looking at it in terms of, let's be sure our fellow minorities are represented also and such, and the at-large districts are really probably still overwhelmingly Caucasian. Sandy?
We're picking on number 1 here. Only one to start with.
So
About the composition of the council. It's more your aspirational meeting.
So Sandy suggested, don't we want to go ahead and throw out number 1 and put back a statement of, or put in a statement of support? I think that statement of support exists. I think that's at the beginning.
Well, no, because what you're really trying to deal with here is the fact that we aren't getting a true representative situation based on it. What you really want to say is you still like the form of government, but you want it to treat it as
Which would probably be more districts and more in districts.
okay, so but rather than trying to
Okay. I may have you guys come up because I'm not sure I could restate that. So, yeah, Evelyn, come on up and ask your questions.
We're in a point of parliamentary procedure. What we need now is somebody to propose an amendment. This is a change proposed by the board. Don't we agree that we now need somebody to move for an amendment to the proposed?
Yeah, so, Anitra? So do we wordsmith that here? Because we can't vote, I mean, whatever we vote in is what we vote in. So,
You can vote in removing this. And then, and that's it, yes.
okay.
You vote in removing this.
And then
and
maybe
when
in the,
we Go in January to look things, that is when we can make a change.
okay, so what Anitra said is that we can vote to remove this. That's all we can do because that's all that's been presented to the members with 2 weeks, 2 weeks in advance. And then in January, we can begin talking about adding a new statement. And then we would vote for that new amendment in May of 2023.
But I do think when you start adding, unless we're using our principle and of DEI and saying something just maybe from that perspective, but when you start adding, you're really talking about a study. You just don't go in and amend your position without a study. You can drop, but you're really, that's what I was trying to avoid type of thing. But remember, use our DEI principles in everything we do.
Can we, if this is voted down today, this is the subject in January.
Yes.
Okay, I call the question.
So can we then, without a study, add something or no?
No.
We can't. Okay.
But we could revisit it in January and talk about doing a study, which we would then vote in May.
And can we
Yeah,
edit.
then we could edit in January. Pick up the 6.
You mean if this motion, if the board recommendation fails? Yeah, and then we could, yes, we could do different editing and bring it to the members in May of 2023. Right? Okay.
So she called the question.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
Somebody.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so that means we take a vote? All right, so, and so we have to put a motion? That is the motion.
That this be dropped.
Okay, Anitra, so the motion is that we're dropping this, just for clarity for me, that we will drop this item number 1 as proposed by the board. And Anitra second, so Evelyn Maddox.
I call the question on the proposed case petition, therefore we should vote yes or no on the proposed. That's all.
Oh,
Yes
okay.
or no on the proposed change.
Okay,
So yeas and nays.
so Evelyn called the question, so we will vote yes or no on the proposed change. Anitra Steele seconded it. And everybody in favor of the proposed change, please raise your hand. So that's that we're going to drop it. We have to count. Okay, that is, yeah, it has to pass by a majority. So, oh, and any in opposition? Any vote no?
Let me lower hands on Zoom, if you don't mind, before we ask for opposition.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, so those in opposition. Sorry, gotta do it again. All right, that motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for that lively debate. And I got to learn a lot about how that all works. Okay. Nominating committee, I believe, is next. Yep. So next we have our nominating committee report, and I will turn it over to Reva.
Thanks, Ann.
I was the chair of the nominating committee last year, so I'd like to thank Jean Ann Coons. I'm not sure if she's here. Yeah, Jean Ann's here. And Janelle, they were also on the committee. We kind of had an easy job. So I'm going to present that slate today. Before I do, I would like to say and congratulate and thank Janelle at the same time for agreeing to be the vice president for the next 2 years and 2 months. She was appointed by the board, so she's safe, she's legal. We'd also like to present the rest of the slate. For treasurer, Rita Goulden, who is our current treasurer, has agreed to renew for the next 2 years as our treasurer. So she will be on the slate as the treasurer. Yes, since we have a lot of new members here today, when I call your name, would you please stand up so people know who you are? And because you're going to be board members and they should know who you are. And so so that was the only other one we had to get was convince Rita. She needed to stay on because she did so much work.
We've left one out because we also appointed Judy Ann Goldman to be on the
Oh,
board.
I didn't know that.
We did, I'm sorry. So stand up, yeah. The board.
Okay, Judy Ann is our new board member by appointment. She's not on my list, but thank you and welcome. So we have Rita is the treasurer. For our board of directors, 3 of these people have renewed. Thank you. Would you please stand as I call your name? Dawn Wade, if you hear.
She's on Zoom.
Okay, Laura Marcus Mountjoy and Cheryl Eufinger. I haven't seen Cheryl. She might be on Zoom. So those are the 3 that are agreeing to come back. Greg Woodhams, who you've also met, is our new board member. Then for next year for the nominating committee, Rita Goulden is taking over the chair, and the 2 members so far are Janine Coons and Rose Stuckey. I don't know if Rose is here. Jean is here. Would you please stand, you 2 ladies, Jean Ann and Rose? We need you to stand.
They were already hard at work.
So you may want to talk to them because sometimes there's only 3 on the committee now, but sometimes they do have more than 3 and they may be looking for other members to join them. So if you're interested, maybe you should let them know. So that is all I think I have to say, right?
Yep, thank you. So she said those are our new board members, but they are not yet our new board members. So the slate of 4 need to actually be voted in by you, the members. So is there a motion on the Mary? Okay, Mary Lindsay moves. Oh, I thought we did this first and then nominations from the floor. Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry. Before we do that, sorry, Mary, my mistake. I do need to put out a call for nominations from the floor. So you are allowed to nominate someone, including yourself, from the floor if you want to do the work of a board member. It's really, really fun. Okay, I don't hearing no nominations from the floor. Mary Lindsay moves that we elect the slate as is. And do we have a second? And Jenny Walters, right, Walters, seconds that that motion. So everybody in favor, please raise your hand. Yes. Yes. Okay, that clearly passes. Yeah, that was almost everybody. So that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, and we are cruising down our list. Yes, ma'am. Oh, we did not include Rita. Right, you are right. We do need to reelect Rita as treasurer. Thank you. Her term has ended. She went, well, she wasn't, you weren't up on the board. We had a miscommunication and you weren't on the board. So I think for clarity's sake, we should absolutely. So can I call on yeah, Mary? Thank you. Mary Herring nominates Rita Goulden to continue as treasurer. Judy Ann Goldman seconds it. Everybody in favor? Oh, yeah, you're not, I mean, shouldn't try to, but but
Zoom wanted to see everyone who was voting.
all right, that motion passes. Thank you, because I don't know anything about budgets or money and have to call her frequently, so. Okay, then one of the last things that we do is of course, everything that we've talked about so far is program, and we did program planning and we heard from you. We did some meetings, we collected some written information from you, the members. And so all of the things that we've already voted on are part of planning, are part of program. So are the member suggested areas of advocacy. And so this is what was kind of discussed sometimes in more detail, but we put these into the three sort of general buckets for advocacy that we talked about in our program meetings. Now, of course, this was prior to an event that happened a couple of weeks ago. And so I suspect that our ideas for advocacy might change, but that's what we talked about earlier this year. Those are the three main topics. The next step is for us to open the floor to directions to the board. So you guys get to tell us, the board members, what you would like us to focus on, what you would like us to know. And so it's your chance to talk to us, the board. So does anyone have a direction to the board? Donna.
Forefront too, although our brand is voting and continue to do all the areas that protect the right and the privacy.
So Donna said that reproductive rights should be a focus for the league this year, if I'm paraphrasing correctly. And that even though we are focused on that is rights, the National League does have a position and a strong statement too from the president of the league. She said that there is no equality without freedom of, oh shoot, I'm gonna misquote it, without freedom of reproductive rights. Freedom of choice. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, there is no equality without freedom of choice. Yep. Any other directions to the board? Yep, come on up. Can you come up and speak? I should have made Donna come up and talk right into the mic, because you guys are saying, I don't want to misquote anyone.
Hi, I'm Mary Herring, for those of you who don't know me. Mary Lindsay and I have actually been working on the Better Elections campaign, collecting signatures, which I don't know how many of you know about that, but it's a ballot initiative that has been, the signatures have been turned in. We're hoping it will be on the ballot in November. And I would like for the league to advocate for that. Our Missouri League actually needs to approve it or whatever. And I spoke with Jessica Jones yesterday at National, and she said that the ranked choice voting component of it is part of the 2020 national position. So the Better Elections Amendment, which would amend the Missouri Constitution, is well within our national positions. So we would not have to do another study. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Better Elections Amendment, there's four main components. The first one is that the primary would be a combined primary. So all of the candidates would be on the same ballot. You wouldn't be picking Republican or Democrat ballot when you walk in. And this is for August. Then in the November general election, the top 4 vote getters from the August primary across all parties advance to the general election in November. And those folks then you vote for your first choice like you always do. Then you can do ranked choice voting, vote for your second choice and your third choice. And then they'll tally the votes using ranked choice voting. So the person with the lowest vote count. Yeah, so the person with the very lowest vote count, they would go back to those ballots and say, okay, who was their second choice, et cetera, until we get a majority, someone who has the majority of the votes, who's elected by the majority of the people. There's a couple other components that are around making sure that there is a paper copy of every ballot. You know, if you're using voting machines, it's got to print out a paper copy so that there's a paper, the election can be audited. There's some stuff about a component of it about making sure voting machines are properly certified before the election. And then the last component of it is that statewide offices, we should always have special elections to fill them. And not just have the governor appoint a new attorney general because the attorney general has been elected to another position. So, or has been, become our senator or whatever. So that's what the Better Elections Amendment, proposed amendment is. And we're working with the state. Well, the state board is meeting and going to discuss it on Friday. And we're hoping that they will authorize that they are going to support it, but we don't know that yet. Oh yeah, the name of this is called Better Elections. It's the Better Elections Missouri. The website that has all the details on it and has the actual language and so on is betterelectionsmo.org. So if you haven't read it, if you're not familiar with it, you can certainly go out and do that. But anyway, that's direction for the board. But I would really like for our league to support this and can actively campaign for its passage.
All right, thank you. Any other directions to the board? Okay, anything from the? Okay.
Maybe this isn't really a direction for the board, but I know we have several people going to our national convention. Some of us are not able to go. And so I would really like for the board to come back and tell us what happened at perhaps the July meeting.
Well, I'm one of those going to national, so I can certainly tell you all about what happens. No, we do have a few spots if anybody else wants to go. We have three other members from our area, though four. We have four. So 5 total with me. But one of our members is actually going as a representative of the state. So we only are taking 4 slots. So we have 1 more slot left. Julia? The dates are June 20. Thursday, June 23rd. Yes, to June 26th. And it's in Denver, Colorado. And you can attend by Zoom. Thank you. It still costs money. Feel like the ventriloquist dummy now. Anything else I've forgotten? Okay. Okay, are there any directions from the, okay, no directions to the board from Zoom. So I actually have, yes, Donna. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I'm also a member of Silver Haired Legislature.
Can I have, yeah, I already am gonna get it wrong.
I'm Marley Klum, and I'm also a member of the Silver Haired Legislature, which is, I don't know if you know what it's all about, but it's a mock legislature, and we make recommendations, present bills to the real legislature. And one of the, it's not a bill or something that we're going to pass. What we're hoping to coordinate with the League of Women Voters is getting people who do not have photo IDs, helping get them to wherever the DMV to get the photo ID. There are so many restrictions that you cannot use now. You can't use expired passports or other things. So if you could help with that, and that's kind of, I believe Silverhead Legislature through Mark is going to get some money to help pay for transportation if indeed we can take people to get the IDs. And Donna and I worked with, it was supposed to be that photo IDs were to be at no charge if indeed you were securing them to vote, to have this for you to the vote. The license offices that we went to didn't seem to have any idea what we were talking about. I used to be a contract agent with the Department of Revenue and ran a license office way before this came into being. Anyway, so keep your ears open if indeed you encounter someone who does not have a photo ID, a current photo ID. Yeah, and I don't know what's been passed as far as the requirements for sure yet, but anyway, help us get the voters out. Yes?
I'm just curious, is your group, is that metro or state or national?
Silverhead Legislature is throughout the state, and there are 150 members. And in the Mark area, it's Platte, Cass, Jackson. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Clay, and Ray counties. And there are 3 senators and 12 representatives. And then we meet, it's kind of fallen apart in the last couple of years, but we meet in October in Jefferson City and present, you know, you can present a bill, tell me what you want, what you think a need is. And several of our presentation bills did pass this time, particularly funding for area agencies on aging and for meals, a lot for meals. A cost that's just gone up enormously, of course, is transportation for delivery of meals, for getting people to senior centers and stuff like that. Anyway, appreciate your help. Pardon me? Well, it's not formalized yet. I did give my contact person at Mark, Becky's, I don't know, six emails, no, a couple of emails, because we're also going to be sure that they're registered to vote, you know, once they get the ID and all. So this group, can you imagine that people aren't registered to vote? You know, I mean, that's hard for me. Anyway, and you can call me. I don't know. Do we have a list of phone numbers on contact? Okay, you can call me. And I have a 660 area code, so it's kind of unique. But yeah, you can call me if you know of someone who needs us. Thank you.
Thank you for telling us. Yes. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to repeat that for the Zoom people, although they're on Zoom, so they may be tech savvy. But that is another reason to sign up on the website, to log in on the website, because one of the things you have access to is the roster. So you can look up anybody's phone number or email address and contact any one of our members. Laura? But you do have to be signed in as a member. That is not available to the public. It is only available to members. Yeah. Yep, and Laura says that she can help anybody who's having any trouble signing on. Yes, ma'am.
Let me unmute here. All right, yeah. I have a comment from the Zoom room from Terry Lane in Wisconsin. The league worked with Vote Writers on photo ID, Vote Writers, all one word, RIDERS, and they assist voters who have difficulty getting IDs. Okay, thank you.
And she's saying that this is local as well. She's from Wisconsin.
No, I don't know if the organization is also local. It's just a heads up for a
Okay.
possible collaboration.
Yep, so we don't know if that's local, but that's a heads up for possible collaboration. Okay,
And I would just add that in St.
And then we do have a contact in St. Louis as well.
It
Okay.
looks like they do have a local organization, boat
Okay. And Terry says they do have a local organization. Okay. All right. Any other directions to the board? Thank you for your work on that, by the way. That sounds amazing. Thank you. Thank you for telling us about it. I didn't know anything about that. Thank you. All right. I know Sandy has an announcement to make, and you want to talk about?
Yes, I'll get a.
I know your voice is loud enough, but not for them, not for the Zoom room.
I'll be getting some information out on Adopt-A-Poll. It's one of our better fundraising efforts. It's also, along with what Greg is doing, a good way to get close to the polls, watch how things work. So that'll be coming out. We obviously want people to sign up for August poll work and for November election. We need about 10 or more volunteers for Adopt-A-Poll in order to participate in the program at the Board of Elections. So I'll get something out. I'd love to have you participate. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. The idea is I just worked the very underwhelming whatever that very long, boring day. We had 234 people show up at the Brush Creek Community Center. So a lot of conversations with poll workers that day. But it's $275 that we get to push back into the league's coffers. And it is actually a lot of fun when it's busy. So, but it's a long day. Mary.
I was just gonna say, that's great, and that is the Kansas City Election Board.
Thank you for that clarification.
The other election boards in our official service area, plus Cass County. And for those of you who might be interested in working on Greg's study, it would be a really good idea if we had representatives from each one of those election board areas that it actually works.
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of,
Get some people from different areas working in polls and all these different election boards, because they're very different.
it's like 13 or 14 hours of research right there. So.
Yeah.
You want to repeat what you said?
Yes, Mary is emphasizing the fact that we also need people to volunteer to work at the polls at the other election boards, Cass Clay and Platt. So that will also tie into the work that Greg is doing.
And am I right that we can, that
Checks.
if we live in the Kansas City, Missouri election board area, we don't want to work the poll, we can actually sponsor someone who's working
That's correct.
in another election board? Is that
Yes,
right?
yes. It's sort of like sponsoring a person in a marathon. You can sponsor another
Ways to
poll worker.
participate in that.
Evelyn?
Does this mean that sponsoring means giving money to the league? For like I could give $10 to the Kansas City League because Sandy is working the poll. Is that the idea?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. And in particular, we would encourage you to sponsor someone who's working outside of the Kansas City Election Board jurisdiction. So we would encourage you to sponsor someone to work the polls in Platt or Clay. So we pledge money to the Kansas City League on behalf of somebody working at a poll. Yes.
Correct. Correlate.
So the Adopt-A-Poll is just Kansas City, Missouri, Jackson County.
Yeah, yeah,
So there has to be a different process.
right. It would still come through us, but the 10 worker limit for that program is through KCEB.
Minimum.
But the contribution opportunity is for all.
Yes, because
Not-
I could work in Cass County and I could donate my salary
Right.
rather than take it, even though it's not. a profit.
And I could sponsor you to work in Cass County by donating the amount of your salary.
Endless opportunities to contribute.
Always.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, do you happen to grab the stuff that was on the drive, that document? Oh, no, okay. All right, well, I actually wrote some brief remarks after what happened in the last couple of weeks, and we're gonna make it by 11:30 because we are about done. We are literally about done. anyway, I actually wrote, I had sort of a longer speech in my head and then I thought, no, there's a rally going on with way better speakers than me. But I do want to say one thing. I really want us as an organization to resist. And what I want us to resist is, I want us to resist feeling defeated by what's gone on in the legislature. I want us to resist feeling defeated by what's going on at the national level. I want us to resist feeling panicked that we have to stamp out every little fire right now. I want us to resist the urge to yell at our friends and our neighbors. I want us to resist, I really want us to resist the urge to yell at our friends and neighbors. We can't yell at the people who agree with us. We can't yell at the people who don't agree with us. I'm maybe okay with yelling at the people who made the laws. That I'm okay with. I'm gonna say, don't resist that. but I want us to resist feeling like there's nothing that we can do about this, because there are extremists who have been interested in damaging our democracy, maybe even destroying our democracy. And they've been interested in that for decades. And they've been working on that for decades. One meeting, one document, one form, one rally at a time. And that's how I hope we approach our work in the coming year. One rally, one meeting, one document at a time, with diligent, thoughtful, ongoing work. So with that message of resistance, I adjourn this meeting. Is that what I do? Okay, can I?
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I have to, darn it. All right. Mary Herring moves that we adjourn, and Mary Lindsay seconds it, and I am.
That called the question. Everybody vote.
Okay, oh yeah, we have to vote. Okay, shall we adjourn this meeting? You raise your hand. Thank you, Anitra, for your patience. Okay, do I declare? What's my word? All right, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you. This is the station, please. I knew that. Yes, I knew that. Thank you. Thank you for